Good afternoon, ladies and peeps and gentlemen, even though that makes absolutely no sense. It's Eli Copperman here with a very, very, very special episode of Eli's Thoughts, and I'm joined by my very close friends, Bell Laker and Gento Naikatha. Say hi, peeps.
Sup?
Hey.
Okay, so why did I kidnap these two and force them to be in this episode? Well, we are going to analyze and talk about some, not all, but some very iconic and innovative, as well as just generally notable pieces of media that have come out over the past decades, not even years, decades, that have now received their own special little anniversaries. And I'm not talking about like 42nd or 36th, no, I'm talking about like 50th anniversary, 25th anniversary.
They get it, dude.
Yeah. Point is, we're going to talk about some notable pieces of media, be it movies, TV shows, or even some notable cartoons. And so we're just going to dissect them and give our own thoughts on them. So, with that said, let's start things off with The Simpsons!
Arguably one of the world's most annoying shows, in my opinion. I'm a hater, I'm sorry. But, like, I like the conspiracy theories that come from it, because they're fucking hilarious.
You mean like how the show is basically like, well, the town of Springfield's like, well, what should we get if a nuclear
Because the show predicts
happens?
things that happen in the future.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Donald Trump became president in the show, and then he became president in real life.
Exactly.
And, like, I think the show has had its amazing moments, and am I surprised it stayed on this long? No, I'm not.
I am. I love The Simpsons, for the record. I'm like a big fan. That being said, though, there would kind of be a point where we need to stop because it was basically made to like satirize the more cheery sitcoms of the 80s and was also like a commentary on what was going on in the 90s. And that's not to say it was freshly new because like the Flintstones was kind of a parody of like sitcoms, but like this show was innovative in how it like really pushed the edge of what you could get away with in sitcoms and animation and what our society was like back then. And in that sense, I think like the show at its prime from seasons 2 to 8 were like very timeless.
I think they ran out of material.
There's still like an occasionally innovative episode like the Lego parody or when they parodied Boyhood, but yeah, the show nowadays has like really run out of steam. It's also kind of like unfortunate that they had to deal with like the Apu controversy, which is fucking stupid.
It's like they're trying to like copy YouTube, but it's like not really working out for them very well, but it's okay, it's fine. It reminds me of Degrassi in the sense of, like, do you know what Degrassi was?
Yeah.
It was like that show that like never ended.
It's still going to this day.
The show that never ends. Do you have anything to say, Jenya?
Considering I haven't seen the show in a long while, I don't have much to say on it.
Well, of what you have seen, like, what do you remember that, like, stood out or what was, like, really bad about it or anything? Like, aside from Marge's annoying voice, nah, 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 nah.
That more reminded me of that one YouTube video. It's like that was just like yeah.
God damn it. We're just going with this on the flow, people. But anyway, okay, so basically, I love the show. You think it's meh? It's funny because the catchphrase "meh" was created by the show. They have steeped within our culture and have made it up. Whereas you, on the other hand, Jenya, don't even remember much about it, which is okay. I did describe the show in the same way as I would describe a lot of theatrical cartoons. They had their audience then, and many people would get away from them because they would go on for some time, but they would still gain a new audience as they would go on, and even at that, older fans would be like, okay, I still love this old stuff. That's how I perceive it anyway, but...
Well, I like to think that they're run by the Illuminati.
Why?
Because, like, they predicted so much that was going to happen, right? The Illuminati knows everything that's going to happen. They ingrained so much into our culture. The Illuminati ingrained so much into our culture. It's facts, man. Simpsons was created by the Illuminati. I would put it out there.
I would argue they're not controlled by the Illuminati as much as they're just controlled by Fox's greedy corporatism.
Fox is the Illuminati. Oh my god!
Well, they're owned by Disney now, so does that mean Disney owns the Illuminati?
I think Disney is also the Illuminati. I mean, no, the D looks like a triangle. The D in Disney looks like a triangle.
Man.
Right?
Yeah, bottom line, The Simpsons really just a solid show, even if it's not for everybody. But now on to the next creation, which this one is 20 years old. SpongeBob SquarePants. What do y'all think?
Well, when the writer died, I was very depressed about it because they said it was going to end. But, like,
They did?
Yeah.
I don't remember. No, after Steven Hillenburg died, they said Camp Coral was going to be a thing, which is not something I want to get into.
They said, like, briefly that it was going to end, like, on Twitter, and then, like, never mind.
I never bought that.
For a brief second, they thought like, it was going to end, and I was, like, really depressed about it. But, like, I think that the older episodes are better than the newer ones, because I think they're trying too hard to be suitable to kids.
I would argue there's still a lot of really good episodes that like deal with some pretty weird themes, like Mimic Madness, which is actually kind of a take on identity disorder and all that. And there's also Sandcastle in the Sand, which is just full on off the wall gags.
This is like the newer. I'm talking about like the middle range, where like they had no idea what they were doing.
That was actually
there's the older range, middle range, and then the newer range. The newer range, like Mimic Madness, like the past few years. Good job.
Well, the middle range was a result of Nickelodeon demanding a lot more, so as a result, there was, like, so much crap being spewed out that they couldn't even have time to really, like, flesh it out properly, so that's another thing. But also, in addition, I think what does make SpongeBob so iconic is mainly just his personality. He's just so goofy
and the dirty jokes.
And optimistic. Well, there's the dirty jokes, but I think...
all the dirty jokes. Sandy Cheeks, Krusty Krab... Every single
Chum
name,
Bucket.
Every single name in like SpongeBob is a dirty innuendo, and it's the best thing ever. Like, if y'all don't know about this, Chum Bucket Chum is fish guts. They are eating fish guts.
Yum.
Ew, stop. But like, the dirty innuendos, the fact that it was made to be a show like for kids, but also like for like the like.
No, it was
like,
originally
it was made to be like an adult
adults.
show, but then like they transformed it into a show for kids with dirty innuendo jokes, like the scene where like SpongeBob blew up the condom.
Alright, that...
Like, if you were a child, you would just be like, oh my god, balloon. But if you were, like, an adult, you'd be, like, dying your ass off. They like, integrated the, like, adult jokes for years. They pulled it off very, very nicely. That's why I like it. Yeah. Until Nickelodeon was like, no, you can't do that anymore.
Gento, how do you feel about SpongeBob's impact? Especially because you and I were born the same year it came out.
I mean, it's part of my childhood.
Aww.
For a short while.
Same.
Yeah, the movie...
Until my parents made me stop because they thought it was stupid.
Well, scientists actually prove that SpongeBob is bad for you, which is like, isn't that the case for every cartoon?
Anyway, I don't know. I like the humor. The humor's pretty good. And I don't know. SpongeBob it definitely has that childish character to it, but it definitely can, like, speak to an adult. I was at the same point in time when, SpongeBob was getting his license. I was getting my license. I got my license.
Yay, milestones together.
Yay.
And, like, the best part, like, the best episode, people order our patties. Iconic!
It sounds like a lot of... Sounds like a lot of...
Hoopla!
Sounds like a lot of...
Hoopla! And then, like, him being assaulted with a brick. That is, like, if y'all don't know about that, SpongeBob used to be very edgy and daring.
Whoever's the owner of the white sedan, you left your lights on.
The tuba incident. Oh my gosh.
Chocolate.
This is why I say...
Did you just say chocolate boy?
Chocolate.
Chocolate!
See, that right there.
That's an iconic episode.
That right there is the cusp as to why we still love the show. Even at its worst, it still offered so many weird but bizarre gags that could never be found in any other cartoons at its time. We're going to be here all day quoting this. I don't want this to go on forever, but bottom line, that pineapple under the sea gave us one of the best, most abrasive, and just downright weirdest sponges ever.
I love Squidward. He's the best character.
Could you keep it down? I'm trying to be boring.
He's like every adult that watches this.
He was the ultimate contrast between SpongeBob's naive, childish antics and Patrick's stupidity.
Yes. The antithesis.
So, the next thing we're going to talk about is Doing the Right Thing.
I have no idea what that is.
It's a Spike Lee joint. Gento and I can have a better cusp on this because we've seen it, but bottom line, it was very controversial for its time in the sense that it tackled on racial issues, and it all took place on a very hot summer day in Brooklyn, New York, at Sal's Pizzeria, where racial tension spewed out over some pictures on the wall. What do you think of it?
It's a great movie.
Well, it's great in the sense that it doesn't condescend anything. It nails down the tension.
I do find it interesting that the entire film is in the day. That to me is interesting. Like the entire, it's in the span of a day. which I don't know. It's very unique for a film.
Well, I think given that it takes place in a day, it allows us
It
to dissect every character that's there. Because it's not just racial tensions between, like, the blacks and the whites. There's also, like, Hispanics and Korean store owners and all that. And, like, what the film really points out is that it doesn't matter, like, what skin color you are. If you are very bitter and downright angry towards someone for even the smallest things, you're racist. It doesn't matter.
Maybe so. Maybe toward the end it might emulate it.
Well, the end, without really spoiling anything for those who haven't seen it, which if you haven't, you definitely should. Let's just say the end is like the ultimate climax of all these people who you've known, and I'm like, oh, I relate to you. You're kind of funny, or you're kind of cool, and then just all this stuff happens. You're like, no.
All hell breaks loose.
To quote Martin Lawrence, all hell broke loose. Which is funny because Martin Lawrence was in the film, but what's even funnier about the film is that before he became famous for another film that we're going to talk about after this, Samuel L. Jackson played a character who commented on everything that was going on in the film, even up to the ultimate climax. Is that not great? We love you, Sam. And we will find you your super suit. It was weird as hell. But point, do you have any further comments, Gento?
I don't know.
No.
It's hot as fuck in here.
It's hot as fuck in here, just like how it's hot as fuck in the movie. So we feel it. And pretty soon, Gento is going to punch me in the face.
Oh. I will.
It's going to happen somewhere in the video. I'm not going to say when. Point is, do the right thing. Dynamite feature. That tells a lot about just how far human beings can descend into utter anger and bitterness when not taking a step back.
Well, I think it was due to the heat.
Well, that too. Basically, the real antagonist of the film was the heat. You can say it was the racial tensions, but it was the heat that really got to everybody. Now, on to the next feature, Pulp Fiction. Although not the first film from Quentin Tarantino, it was the film that really brought him into the spotlight. And as someone who recently saw the film for the first time this year, I can see why. It has so much to talk about, but not too much to the point where it gets too confusing. And of course, you have to watch the film multiple times to really dissect it because it is kind of like a non-linear story. But the more you dissect it, the more you realize, these characters have a lot going on. How do you feel about it?
I love it. It's art. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen it a total of 15 times.
Wow.
I grew up with the movie. And yeah, Samuel L. Jackson's character is the best character of all time. Yep. Mm-hmm. And his best two scenes are the end diner scene and the apartment scene where he quotes from the Bible.
That character in particular, Jules, he could have chosen the path that his partner, Vincent Vega, went down, which is not really giving a shit and just ending up dead because he has, like, no value towards anyone else. Whereas Jules has some actual redemption, and that's what makes him more fascinating. He could have easily become the next big hitman, but he values life in other aspects aside from crime. Do you agree, Gento?
Yeah. There's some really good scenes in that. And honestly, I'm also with Eli on this, that I've only seen it once.
I mean, I've seen it once too, but like, when you look back at how each character viewed their own lives and what they did to like sort of redeem themselves, especially Bruce Willis's character, Butch, you understand them, and although you don't know what will happen to them, that's part of the fun.
Go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Self-promotion, I love it. But at the same time, it's worth commenting on how society can change us, be it a hitman who wants to redeem himself, a former retired boxer who wants to continue his life in a much better way besides doing illegal shit, or a hitman who takes the bad approach and ends up not giving a shit about life and therefore dies.
And we'll never know what's inside that briefcase.
Well, technically, it's really Marcellus's soul, let's be honest. I mean, that's the fan theory anyway. Okay, the next two films we're going to talk about are two very distinctive films in the Disney Renaissance. The one that started it all, The Little Mermaid, and the most popular of them all, The Lion King. Thoughts?
Well, I think that The Little Mermaid's better than The Lion King, because, like, I don't like the Hitler.
That's not a good reason, come on.
No, I like The Little Mermaid better, because The Little Mermaid had a story about love and lost love, and, like, she sacrificed her voice to have legs in order to be in love with him.
Well, then again, the Lion King had a coming-of-age story about the son of a king was framed of murder, and then his uncle took over and ruled over the whole land. But it keeps on to the message of never running away from your troubles, but instead to face them head on. And that's something that a lot of people can gravitate towards. That's not to say The Little Mermaid doesn't have anything you can't take away. It's just that the way they executed the message, I can see why some people didn't like it, in the sense that, oh, you can just fall in love with someone you barely even met just so you can prove a point to your father, when in reality you're just a stuck-up teenager. But at the same time, think of it this way. Ariel's a teenager who is bored of her very fanciful life and wants something more, indicated in the song Part of Your World. Great song.
Basically, her father's not trying to protect her, but like at the same time, he's not letting her make her own choices for like herself. And it's a lesson, like, the Little Mermaid teaches lessons to both parents and children. Parents, like, you have to let your kids figure out what's wrong for them, like, what's right and wrong for themselves. You can't, like, parent them, obviously, but, like, don't be, like, closing them off from, like, the world. Like, let them explore things. It's healthy for them. And, like, it also, like, shows the lesson of going after love, even after you have to make sacrifices. Because, like, she sacrificed her voice in order to go after love. And, like, with The Lion King, I get what the message is. I just don't think it's appropriate for children.
No,
I really don't.
It's a great message. I think
it's a great message, but it's like, his uncle's going to murder his father. We see murder in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
There's murder in that movie.
Well, as Don Bluth said, children can handle anything as long as, one, you give them a happy ending, of course, but two, they take away something from the realities of life. Because that can happen. I'm not saying children should experience murder in every situation, but in some situations, you need to find a way to make sure that the audience isn't scarred for life and can take away something. Because, of course, the film teaches us that running away from your problems is a bad thing, because that way you can't fight it head on. And to be fair, keep this in mind, Simba finally discovered what he means to the Pride Land when he was an adult. Not when he was a kid. He couldn't have done it as a kid, but as an adult, he took it with him and he stuck by it. I think that's really great. What do you think of these films, Gento?
As someone who's never seen The Little Mermaid until fairly recently, it's got an interesting story, I'll admit.
It's a coming-of-age tale.
It definitely is a coming-of-age tale.
Like the Lion King.
Yeah. With The Lion King, I can kind of see how it would be a bit bad for kids to be seeing murder.
Well, what about Bambi's mom?
That was also traumatic.
That was traumatic,
Well,
yes.
we didn't see the murder, whereas like with Mufasa, we saw that head on, and we experienced it, and we took it. We took it with us.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, like, if I remember correctly, isn't The Lion King based off the...
Hamlet.
Yeah.
Loosely, yeah.
Loosely based on Hamlet.
I think that's what gives it more gravitas, because with like the Shakespearean quality, it makes it feel a lot more grand. And it's a very epic film.
Oh, no, it
in
is.
scope, in scale, and like what it does in terms of like the music.
Okay, so I get like that, like it's loosely based off of like Hamlet, but like if you know what The Little Mermaid's based off of,
It's also dark.
No, it's very, very dark, that like source material. But like the fact that the end product for Disney was not as dark as the end product.
Well,
for the Lion
I
King.
don't think they could have done that.
They could have made it a little bit darker if they wanted to. Trust me.
They kind of did it with Hunchback.
Well, that's a different story. But like with the Little Mermaid, I don't think they actually could kill off the main character.
No, like I'm talking about the version where the witch, she cut out her tongue.
Oh, that one.
Right? And she's like, okay, every time you step down, it'll feel like knives. She could have been like, oh, so I sacrificed, but like what you get, it hurts. When you like sacrifice for selfish reasons like love, that hurts. They could have gone down that path.
Well, I think with the Lion King, they kind of like felt, you know what, we need to go really dark with this, because like what is our audience going to take away from this outside of the message? Like they need to experience it, and they need to experience a tragic loss. And I think that's something that's really important. I'm not saying I want to like go kill off people to teach kids a lesson. What I mean is, if kids are going to take away something that harsh, they need to experience something like witnessing a murder. And, you know, murder can be something that a lot of people try their best to cope with, be it not even talking about it. But I think when you do it for that long, that's when the problem just worsens.
Most kids don't witness murder.
I mean, some do, let's be honest.
But most kids don't, and
hey, you don't
go
know,
without it.
You don't know most kids in here, and neither do I. Point is, though, both The Little Mermaid and The Lion King are pretty dark in their own right. One's darker than the other. But what we can take away from them is that Hakuna Matata is never the answer. Facing more problems is what will ultimately lead to a better tomorrow. But we do love Timon and Pumbaa. Slimy yet satisfying. They're the best comic release of the Disney Renaissance next to the Genie.
True. Sebastian, too.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, Sebastian.
Okay, the next one on our list is The Wizard of Oz, the 1939 musical with Judy Garland. Now, as a film that's touched the lives of generations ever since its release, and ever since its televised re-release in the mid-50s, what do y'all think?
It started colorized filming, so...
You mean the colorized filming besides Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
No, like, okay, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs were, like, cartoon, but, like...
Well, that's an insult!
Whatever. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was colorized film in the cartoon industry. And even though that was like, a great feat in its own right, Wizard of Oz is like live action. So that's something that had never been done before that. And I feel like it's revolutionary in that right.
Well, in that sense, another film on this list that I'll just get out of the way, Gone with the Wind, that in turn, which one of the directors of The Wizard of Oz, the credit one at least, also directed that one, he made the first fully colorized film, Gone with the Wind, and that in turn was also revolutionary, not just in terms of its length, but also in terms of what it tackled and all the racial stuff. But point of the day, what makes The Wizard of Oz hold up to me is really the simplicity of it. It's simple. You know, just a girl who wants to experience a faraway land away from
And
Kansas.
the characters. Like the Cowardly Lion.
And I'm getting to that. And so she ends up in this weird land with the aforementioned Scarecrow, Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man. But what makes that journey so engaging is mainly the sense to go back home. Because, as the old saying goes, there is no place like home.
And little known fact, the cast that she had in Oz, they were based off people in her real life.
Exactly. You were there, and you were there, and you were there.
Like, not many people, like, really notice that, because, like, of the black
Right.
and white, like, at
And
the
the
end, it's, like,
subtleties.
kind of hard to see. But, like, the fact that it, like, both made her appreciate what she had in her real life, and, like, the Cowardly Lion, it's like, oh, people who are, like, cowardly, like, courageous.
I just
Like,
don't have the nerve.
He had a heart all along because he cared. Who was the other guy again? Oh, yeah, the
The Tin
Scarecrow.
Man, the Tin Man.
No,
The
the
heart.
Tin Man wanted the heart. Scarecrow wanted the brain.
Right. If I only had a brain.
And he had a brain because he was smart. You don't need an actual brain to be smart.
You really don't. I think that's something we can all take away from this, because, like, all three of us are socially awkward, and we all have, like, our own
And-
little developmental disabilities.
It also, like, taught you that you can't really, like, depend on someone to fix all of your problems. You have to fix your own problem. Like, the Good Witch. She couldn't fix everything. The Wizard. He couldn't fix everything.
No, and you can say, oh, why didn't Glinda bring her back? Because that's not what the film is about. It's not about just automatically saving the day and all that. It's about overcoming your fears. Just like what Dorothy did to the Wicked Witch. She killed the Wicked Witch, mind you, by just throwing water on her. Who else could have thought of that? Admittedly, I guess people in Oz are fucking stupid, but point of the day, overcoming your fears is what matters most of all.
Apparently that was improv, though. Judy Garland just, like, did that improbly. They just kept it. Because they thought it was funny.
Oh, that's cute. Well, it's funny because that film came out of a hellish production where they kind of, like, mistreated the cast, especially Garland. There were a lot of production difficulties, multiple directors.
The Tin Man got lead poisoning from the paint.
Oh, yeah, well, one of the original actors. But, like, even with its troubled production, the final product does not show. It shows a very, very charming film with a lot of creative special effects, wonderful characters, and timeless songs that we're still singing to this day. Gento, you've never seen The Wizard of Oz, right?
No, but I have heard of it.
Listen, if the film taught us anything, you don't need to experience wonder to be wonderful yourself. So you can experience so many other treasures, and as long as you fulfill your life in the best way, that's what matters at the end of the day. So thank you, movie. Now on to the next film, which is Avatar. And by Avatar, I mean Dances with Wolves, but with blue people. My thoughts exactly. Loved it back in the day just for, like, the special effects and shit, but let's be honest.
The story has been done to death.
That's not to say you can't execute it well. You know, you obviously can. But looking back, like, what do you guys even remember about it?
They were the blue people, and that's it.
Yeah. And it's funny, because, like, Disney, now that they own Fox, they're...
Disney made that movie?
Well, it was initially Fox, obviously, but now Disney owns Fox, so they're going to push out the Avatar sequels, which, at this point, they've been delayed so much that they might not even be released. Gento, do you even remember anything about it?
The weird sex stuff, I remember.
You mean with their hair?
Yeah!
Oh, yeah, the
It's
Navi.
iconic!
They make not little Navi babies with their hair, which could lead to some pretty interesting pubes.
They technically use their hair for, like, they connect it to other things.
Does that mean they have sex with those creatures?
Yeah.
It's getting too weird.
Bestiality! Hey, I'm trying to remember other shit but besides the actual movie, because let's be honest, if not for the innovative technology and the fact that James Cameron directed the film, would we even remember it?
Like, when I googled it, I forgot it was, like, about, like, environmentalism and, like, saving, like, another planet. It's, like, Atlantis, but, like, in the rainforest and in the sky.
Not even Atlantis, like Fern Gully. It's fucking Fern Gully.
And I forgot about it. I'm like, oh, so there's that guy.
Do you think the film would have been stronger if there wasn't even an antagonist? Like, it would have just been about this guy's journey in the woods in general?
I think it would have been stronger if this wasn't a thing.
Good one.
Damn.
High five. James Cameron make better fucking movies, I swear to God.
It's memeable, at least.
Yeah, it's memorable.
I mean, it's memorable for, like, the effects and the creature designs, but otherwise, I'm, like, not going to remember it even after we're done this. So, yeah, Avatar. It was a thing. Highest grossing movie, but who cares? The next film we're going to talk about is Mad Max. And by Mad Max, I'm not talking about Fury Road. No. I'm talking about the 1979 Mad Max film from George Miller, which was made on a very low budget. And it shows. Like, it doesn't feel like a post-apocalyptic future, even though the film says it is. But you can, like, argue that it doesn't matter what the future will look like. It'll still be shit. But I did not like this film. Do you guys agree? Have you seen it?
I've never seen it.
You've never seen the original Mad Max. Okay. The sequels are better because they expanded on the universe and showed a lot more creative effects. And, like, obviously they had much more money then. And, you know, the first film had to work within its limitations. But I have to admit, I just didn't care. I really didn't care about the characters. The adventure didn't happen until, like, much later on. And even beyond that, I just found it boring. Like, I haven't seen Fury Road. I'm sure it's a weird-ass, like, monster truck.
Fury Road is cool. It's a clusterfuck.
So I've heard. I should have seen it when it came out, but I wasn't old enough.
Reminds me of, like, a lot of movies these days where, like, I just don't care.
You need to be more specific than say don't care, because you can say, I don't care about the Emoji Movie.
Dunkirk.
Well, I think what Belle is saying is that it's a film that has, like, a massive critical acclaim and something that will definitely be remembered for, like, its innovation.
But the plot was shit.
That's the thing. I didn't like the story. It was such a bore fest. Not that I'm comparing this to Dunkirk, but more so in the sense that Mad Max is a film that really isn't worth talking about to me because nothing about it really captivated me. I didn't find the characters interesting. Mel Gibson was boring in the film, I have to admit. Like, he did better in the sequels when there was more stakes, but man, what a fucking snooze fest. I'm sorry. Don't worry, though, we're going to pick this up with a better film, and that film is Akira. So,
I've never seen it either.
You haven't seen it
I'm
either.
a shit weeb, I'm sorry.
It's okay, totally okay, but doesn't matter. And you're probably saying, but didn't this film come out in 1988? Yes. But when it came here to the lovely nation of America in 1989, it blew up. It inspired so many anime fans. And that's not to say it was the only one. There was, of course, Dragon Ball Z. But that was a TV series that lasted much longer.
It's still going on to this day.
It's still going on. But Akira, I would argue, was the seed. It was the seed that just blew up. No one had ever seen it before. And it was just so fascinating. It was one of the few films besides Blade Runner that came out in the 80s that depicted the future and how it really would look like. Gritty, disturbing, violent, and it's a really interesting commentary on what would happen to the human race if certain casualties caused by science would go out of hand. And I think it's really fascinating because that's kind of a trope in a lot of anime films and shows now, but this film nailed it down. And you can make the argument, but it's a loose adaptation of the manga series, wah. Yeah. But the creator of the manga made the movie. Got anything on that, folks? No? Okay. Bottom line, Akira's still a badass movie, but with that said and done, time for the next flick, which is Tim Burton's Batman. Why are we talking about Tim Burton's Batman? Because that was the film that kickstarted not only the DC animated universe of the 90s and 2000s, but also the Dark Knight trilogy. And if it wasn't for this film, superhero movies would not be taken as seriously.
Wasn't that the one with, like, the nipples? And, like, the...
No. That's Batman and Robin. Granted, that was after Tim Burton got replaced by Joel Schumacher. But the point is, if it wasn't for this film, I don't think comic book movies would have been taken as seriously. And you can make the argument that Richard Donner's Superman movie did that too, but let's be honest, that movie's goofy as fuck.
Whenever I think of Batman, I just think of, like, the nipples and, like,
the bat nipples.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, That's another thing. That's when the series became flat out goofy, but that wasn't the fault of Joel Schumacher. That was the fault of Warner Brothers getting cold feet, because Batman Returns, the sequel to Batman, oh, that was dark as shit. It's a Tim Burton movie that happens to be a Batman film, whereas Batman 1989 is a straightforward Batman film. And admittedly, Batman doesn't really take center stage as much as his enemy, the Joker. It's really the Joker's movie, and Jack Nicholson really steals the show. But man, really dynamite performance from Jack Nicholson. Holy fuck. It's a role meant for him. And Michael Keaton as well. Because beforehand, he would just be typecasted in comedy roles. And it's funny because he was in another Tim Burton film before this, Beetlejuice, where he stole the show. But this Batman, Michael Keaton's Batman, is very suave, very mature, and very relaxed, very mild-mannered. But when he's Batman, he's not like as vigilant as like Kevin Conroy's Batman or even Christian Bale's Batman, who, let's be honest, is fucking goofy. But the point is, when he's in the shadows, you fear him just because of how frightening he looks. But that being said, the one thing that dates the film is the Prince soundtrack. So what do you think, Gento? I've been babbling on too long.
I haven't seen it.
God damn it. You guys are in for a treat. It's goofy in some capacity, but for the most part, it takes itself seriously, and that's what the 90s animated series did best. And next, we have something that you have seen, The Matrix. You lead the way, man.
What a trilogy of films.
It's Ghost in the Shell, but if it was live action. Like, that's what the creators of The Matrix told Joel Silver when they were pitching it. We want to make this, but with real people.
I don't know. Now, here's the thing. I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen the trilogies in a while. And I went on a binge watch recently of all three. And I gotta say, it has a very interesting story to it. It has a very interesting world, you know, especially when it comes, you know, and it has some like very cool message, very interesting messages about like technology. What if AI took over the world? And, you know, fucked everything up.
And you realize that the two pills, the red pill and the blue pill, is basically a symbolism for politics?
I did not notice that.
Yeah, apparently so.
Huh. He said the blue pill would make him stay in his own world and he would just believe whatever he wants. The red pill is the one that is going to allow him to escape the Matrix and essentially see the real world.
So they were Republicans.
Basically. Is that not unbelievable?
The Republicans made the AI.
The club likes it. At my school.
Oh boy, let's not.
Anyway, but overall, I got nothing.
Well, to sort of sum up what Gento was saying, I think what does kind of like make it unique is not just the world building, but also like what can happen when
the interesting battle between good and evil, which honestly is a little bit interesting with this, because it's like, I mean, it's not your typical final battle. Sure, you can see it as like good and evil sort of battling it together, but then kind of think like, wait a minute, Neo is losing to Smith, so evil is triumphing over?
Exactly. That's a really fascinating point too, and it's also fascinating when you consider that the main character is basically their Lord and Savior.
Yep, their Messiah. Whoa. As they keep claiming he is.
Whoa. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, folks. We will be right back. Those were our thoughts on The Matrix, but until then, catch you on the flip side. And we are back. We had some good food while we were doing all that crap, but we are back to talking about more media, and after that, I can let these two go. So with that said and done, the next film we're going to talk about is Mary Poppins. So what do you guys think of them?
I only remember like the weird talking dog from it, and that's it.
Talking dog? There was not a talking dog, there was a talking fox.
Okay.
But funny you mentioned the fox, because that was during like the animated segments with Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Didn't they have like a weird little like talking black Scottish terrier?
That was in Lady and the Tramp.
Oh my god.
We mistake Disney movies all the time, folks. Just the other day, I mistook The Fox and the Hound for Bambi, and I mistook The Aristocats for 100 Run Dalmatians. Because it's the same movie.
No, they aren't!
It's
There's
the same
cats
movie.
and dogs!
It's the same movie. Rich people want to get rid of dogs. Well, no, shitty Disney similarities aside, what do you guys think holds up the most about the film?
The fact that they mix reality with cartoons,
Well, I mean, that's only for like
and you feel like you're tripping.
That's only for like a moment, but I do agree that it's one of the best segments because the mixture of like animation and live action was
And it
really
makes you
fascinating.
question reality. Like her never ending bag. You don't know where she's
That
coming from.
too. I love the surrealism
Like the
factor.
entire movie makes you question reality.
Yeah, like any Disney movie.
It's kind of like Annie McPhee, but like they pull it off better than Annie McPhee.
Much better. Especially the whimsy, charisma, and the beautiful sincerity of Julie Andrews. She was perfect.
Yeah, and the fact that it's a musical and supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is fun to say. Overall, good movie.
Yeah, and I think what I really like the most about it is that, you know, the father is very strict, and like there have been many films that have done like the workaholic father cliche, and many of them have done it to a really cheesy defect because it's always so grown-worthy. But in this film, and also in Steven Spielberg's Hook, it makes so much sense why the father is like
Wasn't
that.
their mom a feminist too? Like,
Yeah, the mom was also feminist. So like both
Go
parents
her.
didn't really have go her, but they didn't have enough time to really watch over the children because one, the father was working at the bank 24/7, and the mother, being the feminist, was always getting involved with riots, votes for women, step in time, and all that. But in contrast, you have like the two very innocent children who are like experiencing life through the eyes of this really not weird, but like very down to earth and very controlled nanny with a lot of surrealistic elements to it, who is really good at teaching them valuable lessons of feeding the birds, toppins a bag, and all that jazz. She's teaching them lessons on how to be more considerate towards others and not just to all the real, cold, hard stuff of reality. And that's something the father learns too. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. There is so much truth to that.
it's a very wholesome movie, and I think that's why like a lot of kids like it
Oh, yeah.
to this day.
It actually touched a lot of dads. For some reason, like a lot of dads just loved it.
Gento, what do you think?
You haven't seen it in a long time, right?
Yeah, it's been a while for me, but from what I have seen, what I can remember, yeah, it's pretty whimsical. It's pretty cool.
I think even if you haven't seen the film, like the charming elements to it
It's very
and the
charming.
musical numbers will definitely stick out to you. Because like, who doesn't remember Let's Go Fly a Kite? I think overall, Mary Poppins, very much like The Wizard of Oz, experiences childhood endearment and whimsy in the most sincere way possible. That's why it still holds up. And now for another family movie that teaches us a very valuable lesson about working. And by working, I mean building. And by building, I mean being yourself. Being creative in your own special way. And that is the Lego Movie. What do you guys think of it? It's only 5 years, so it's like the youngest on this list. But how do you feel that it's held up? Or held up?
I only remembered the Batman one. Or is that like...
Lego Batman movie?
Oh, is that like a different one?
Yeah. You know, it's
Oh,
about
I
the
remember
Master
the main
Brothers.
character was really annoying.
I found his like naivete and like innocence kind of charming because like he genuinely did not know any better, but he learned over time that like because Emmett represents the everyman intentionally, but he represents us in the sense that we are basically in his shadow and that we ourselves are special in our own right as long as we have a certain guide that can bring us through the hardest times. And interestingly enough, the film was made by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who were formerly off of successes like the criminally underrated Clone High, big blockbusters like the 21 Jump Street movies, and pretty decent animated films like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And this film, that they prove that they can hone their skills and make really charming, very cute family films with so many off-the-wall gags, including Gento Nikotha's favorite, Batman.
I have no comment to that, but as far as the movie, it's
Well-
it's a good film.
Well, what else can you say about it besides it's just good? Like, what do you take away from it?
It definitely shows that anybody can be creative, anybody can be the chosen one, and you have the power to basically build the world as you see fit.
Exactly. I think that's something that anyone can take away, not just children.
Just don't do it for corporate means.
Well, no. But I think what also makes the film very genuine is, like, some people do not like the ending to the movie at all. And I don't know why. I think it's the perfect ending because it all takes place within the mind of this kid. And it's also stuff that his dad would wanted and said. I personally think, as someone who played with Legos as a kid and like would imagine those fantasies, like I think that was brilliant because it was the perfect psychological connection between the family bonds. And in the sequel, they expanded on that even more. But of course, Everything is Awesome is the ultimate. It's a parody of like those like really popular songs you see on the radio. But beyond that, it's really classic now.
No.
Oh, come on. She's a liar. She's a contrarian.
No, I hate that song so much more than Let It Go.
Contrarian. She's going to punch me in the face, folks. Just happened.
You already got one more.
Oh, that's right. There was. It happened. But point of the day, I think what we can take away from the Lego movie, in addition to the beautiful animation that really depicted the Legos, that's another thing. Most of the Lego animations would like have them move around very fluidly, like they're like weird gooey humans, but here the Legos actually move like Legos, down to the limitations.
Yeah, Forest Fire 101, that YouTuber helped with that.
Oh, really? That's so good. I loved him. I love those Lego brick films on YouTube. That stuff was my childhood.
Okay, so, like, I kind of forgot whether or not I saw this movie, because, like, I get similar movies confused all the time. I'm a blonde, shut up. So, essentially, I liked it, but, like, I think it mainly, depends on, like, the childish humor of, like, oh my god, I built a really tall couch, haha, how random, you know?
Well, that's kind of the idea. Like, at first he doesn't have a lot of good ideas, but as the film goes on,
yeah,
he
it's
learns
very
more.
wholesome, very, very cute, but I think it, like, depends too much, like, on the jokes than it does, like, on the plot.
Some of the jokes are a bit juvenile, I do admit that.
Like, it depends too much on the jokes more than, like, the plot. Like, if the plot were a bit more memorable, then it'd be, like...
what's unmemorable about the plot?
I forgot about it, the entire thing.
Well, there you have it. But I think that's kind of the point, though. It's from a child's imagination, so it kind of feels a bit more genuine in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't seen the Lego movie yet, feel free to do so. And definitely check out the sequel. It bombed unfairly, so check it out. Alright, so the next film is from a very small animation studio. Well, maybe not as small as it was 10 years ago, but Laika's very first feature film, Coraline! And they went on to make Paranorman, The Box Trolls, Kubo and the Two Strings, and The Missing Link, which is their biggest bomb. What the fuck?
Coraline kind of scarred me for life when I was a young child.
It's not the most appropriate film for kids, but it is a very distinctive film.
I love it. I love that movie. But I remember, like, when I first watched it, like, I cried myself to sleep for 2 weeks. I felt that, like, people were going to come out of my walls and, like, sew buttons into my eyes.
I thought that too. This was the first movie that shut me up. Like, beforehand, when I was younger, I would, like, occasionally, like, chatter in a movie theater or something. But this film, I never spoke. It just... Something about it just stuck with me for so long, and I just
and the horror still holds up to this day. As someone who's seen this multiple times, I can say for a fact that the horror still holds up. Well, maybe I'm not as juvenile, and I'm not like so scared of everything, but I can say, like, even just like thinking about like maybe even like the psychological horror.
No, it's horrifying like a new way now, because like when you watch it when you're older, you're like, oh my god, the mother controls the father. And
that
like,
is scary.
Yeah,
Whitey,
that is scary.
Like, and so like even when he tries to save her, spoiler alert, he can't. He can't control his own actions. When you realize how much control she has in that world, that's terrifying.
That is genuinely frightening and genuinely psychologically scarring.
So like I think like when like you're younger, you're like, the more scarring is like, oh my god, the button eyes. But like when you're older, it's like, oh my god, she has control over everything. She has influence in the outside world, and then it's like also the thing of like what's real and what's not real.
Yeah, it's horrifying to kids visually, but it's horrifying to adults from like a psychological point of view.
Because like I didn't know what was real and like what wasn't real, because like it bled into like the real world, and then it also didn't.
You could say it's confusing.
It's a mind fuck.
You could say it's confusing in that sense, but maybe that was the point.
Well, either way, for being like his first ever film,
pretty high.
It set the bar pretty high, and it set the stage for what they could do.
Oh yeah, like that.
And it showed what they're capable of doing.
And that doesn't even count like the highly fluid animation that they've done. They've done like very profound horror with Paranorman, fantasy horror with the Box Trolls, very profound Japanese folklore with Kubo and the Two Strings, and And even adventure comedies with The Missing Link. Not that Missing Link's the funniest movie ever made, but it was a cute little kids movie. And
Speaking of horror, Blair
Oh.
Witch Project.
that's right, the next flick on our list. Now, as someone who just saw the film for the first time now, I didn't find it all that scary until the very end.
Yeah, but like it is iconic though, because like it set like the ground rolling for all
Yeah.
of the found footage films, which a lot
Most
of them
are shit.
Most of them are shit, but you have to admit, compared to the rest of them, the Blair Witch Project is the best of them all. It
I
is
agree.
the original. And I think a lot of people found it to be scary because the found footage aspect, like, oh my god, it's based on a true story, it's found
Right.
footage. It made it feel real to people.
Yeah,
And
and
it made
obviously, as someone who knows about like the behind the scenes making of any movie, like even the low budget filmmaking, like obviously it didn't happen. But to those who don't know, like let's say you walked into it blind, it's like very frightening to those who don't even know about this legend, and to those who are like genuinely frightened as to what this happens. But what makes it, I think, as Roger Ebert put it best, what makes it truly scary is that we don't see the horror. What we don't see is scarier than what we actually
Yeah.
see. I haven't seen any of the Paranormal Activity films. I never will. They look like shit. But do we see the ghosts in that movie?
That's what makes it hilariously bad. So, like, it's like, think of like a giant hand that like isn't there. It's like picks up someone. It's like, doo.
The evil monster hand from Coraline's back. Woo!
Or like think of like, so if you know the movie Annabelle, right?
Yeah,
And like how like the doll kind of floats around sometimes.
yeah.
So like how like the demon's like holding the doll, how like it floats around.
Come here,
So like
my
think about it like
pretty.
that, only like, people get like thrown around like like
It's the equivalent of just throwing keys in the audience's face.
yeah.
See, that's where
Like
I
you see
feel
what's happening to the person, you just don't see what's doing it, and it could work if it didn't look so.
stupidly goofy.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't see anything in Blair Witch Project. We don't hear any music. All we hear are just the characters
And screaming.
and the audio. Sound, in my opinion, is the scariest aspect to a horror movie. Because of the sound and the staticness of the cameras they were using, it's what adds into the fear factor. And, you know, you could say, oh, nothing happens. Yeah, but that's the point. If it didn't take its time setting stuff up, I don't think the payoff would have been as big. Do you agree, Gento?
Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't.
Okay, well, if you do check it out, don't watch the Blair Witch movie from 2016, because it shows the horror,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
That traumatized me. Okay.
All
Sixth
right.
Sense.
Yeah, the next flick is one of the very few good movies from M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, The Sixth Sense.
No, his movies are all like I think that like they're always okay, but like they have like a lot of build up to like kind of nothing.
Well, except
like-
for After Earth, because that was like completely different.
Like most of them do, but like with The Sixth Sense, because like that's like M. Night Shyamalan's thing. He likes making everything make sense, right? But like with The Sixth Sense, it does and it doesn't. Like he does. Like this is the one time he pulls this off flawlessly.
Why is that?
Because okay, so if I said why, it would give away a really big spoiler. So if you like haven't seen the movie yet, spoiler, you have like 5 seconds to turn away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, cool. The therapist ends up being a ghost the entire time, and the kid actually can see ghosts. So his behavior, like throughout, doesn't make sense until like you can find out he sees ghosts,
Mhm.
and like you can find out like the therapist is a ghost, and everything like comes together in a neat little bow. And like Shyamalan's other movies, like the one with like Brad Pitt and the aliens, like where it turned out to be the water.
Brad Pitt, no, Mel Gibson, the
No, not like Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and like the aliens.
Mel Gibson and the aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah, Signs. Oh my god, that it makes no sense.
It turned out to be the water.
How does that make sense when they're traveling to a planet mostly made up of water?
See? Makes no sense.
I got so
but it also
triggered.
does. Because, like, reasons. See? He tries to make everything tie together. Usually he fails miserably. Signs.
Yo, mostly.
Signs. That's a good example of him failing miserably. Sixth Sense. Iconic movie. Iconic.
Well, here's my question, and this still has to do with spoilers, but they said ghosts could not enter the church where the kid was, so how could Bruce Willis's character be there?
I think Bruce Willis, he explained this as, like, the character moved on, but then he came back because, like, his wife was, like, trying to move on, and he found a disturbance.
Okay. It makes sense from a psychological standpoint.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
like, his wife was, like, trying to move on, and, like, his ghost was, like, resurrected back from heaven, like, oh, hell no.
Okay, I think I knew about the twist before I even saw the movie, so... Boop! Alright, we got 3 more. One of them is ScoobyDoo!
The rest of these are TV shows, by the way.
Yeah, we're talking about, like, the original show, but I guess also the legacy as well, because When I was a kid, I was a big Scooby-Doo fan. Nowadays, I kind of don't really give a shit. Although I've watched it nowadays occasionally, it's not that bad.
My favorite like series is like Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
That one was really
so
meta.
much.
It was really meta.
Like, and they were gonna have a sequel to it, and like no one liked it enough. Excuse me. Like, basically, the fact that one series can have so many spin-offs and still be as successful as it is today. It is from the 50s. 60s, whatever. It is still as successful as it was then and today. That's amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
Truly.
And you can say, like, God, when's this shit gonna end? I don't think it's as bad as, like, The Simpsons, where it's, like, one show that just never fucking ends. Scooby-Doo has, like, endless spin-offs. Keyword spin-offs, which is very common in the animation industry to this day. Tom and Jerry have spin-offs. The Looney Tunes have spin-offs. Fucking Disney characters have all the spin-offs. It's not uncommon. And so Scooby-Doo, it's much more forgiving. You can have, like, shows that are more comedic, shows that are more dark, shows that are just utter garbage.
That zombie movie that scarred all the kids.
Oh, Zombie Island, that one.
That scarred so many kids.
Yes,
for life.
oh, it did. That was one of the darkest Scooby-Doo films. But let's not also forget the 2002 James Gunn movie. Oh my god, I'm sorry, that movie is like one of my biggest guilty pleasures. Yo, what up, dog? And, dog? Keeping you real. Look, the one great thing that came out of it was that Matthew Lillard, who is now voicing Shaggy, by the way, was amazing as Shaggy. He studied the character when preparing for the role, and he has to become Shaggy now. Gento, what's your favorite and least favorite Scooby-Doo spinoff? Either movie or TV show?
Be Cool Scooby-Doo is the worst show I've ever seen in my entire life. Do not at me.
I only saw one episode from it. Isn't that the one
Daphne is such a dumb bitch. She talks to a puppet, and I want her to die. Oh my god.
Jeez. Well,
It's like
isn't that the one?
It is the one show I have found that is worse than Teen Titans Go and that is saying something.
Teen Titans Go is not that bad, I have to admit. I'm gonna get skewered for that.
I don't care. I don't give a fuck what you people
Please
think.
do not ASMR them. They've been through enough.
Too late.
I need therapy after this.
Oh, you will. But point is, favorite and least favorite.
Mystery Incorporated and Be Cool Scooby-Doo. Be Cool Scooby-Doo's shit.
That's the one where they look like the Family Guy characters, right?
I wouldn't say this one's the worst.
No, they look like Family Guy characters have like been like bathing in nuclear waste. They look so bad, and they act so bad.
Anyway,
It's like
you were saying
Futurama characters, bad cousins.
you were saying, Gento?
I feel like I don't have anything to say.
You don't have a least favorite and favorite Scooby-Doo entry?
Oh, no, I did. I just keep getting interrupted all the time.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Belle.
So the best one, at least from what I've seen, is maybe the one with like the Phantom.
Which Phantom? Because there's like a bunch of Phantoms.
The one where they were doing the town show.
Oh, the Phantom of the Opera? Wait,
Not that one.
I don't even remember that one.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was a fan of the opera.
Oh,
It might have been Phantom of the Opera.
okay. I haven't seen a lot of the Scooby-Doo products after the late 2000s.
Yeah, I think that one's more recent.
Although I did see some of Scooby-Doo
And-
at the WWE, which was a masterpiece.
I consider that one the worst. But the one where they were doing like the racing, I'm kind of like,
Oh yeah.
really?
Yeah,
like,
I don't know if
really?
Scooby-Doo belongs in a
Like
race.
really?
That's what wacky races is for. The other hand.
Yeah, I think it was like Scooby Doo and the Speed Demon.
Oh, that one. I never
Yeah.
saw
Wait,
that.
no, you mean the one with like the ghoul school? I liked that one.
No?
Ghoul School? No, that was
There was one where like he was doing like a race or like no. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Like there's like
The
one where
Reluctant
it's like
Werewolf?
It's another one where they collaborate with WWE and they're doing a race.
Oh my god. My brain is fucking fried. There's so many Scooby-Doo movies.
like the one I'm thinking of. The one like I'm thinking of like where they go to like a school for like a girls' school for like monsters.
Oh.
That's my favorite one.
I saw that when I was younger, but I barely remember
I
anything.
love that one.
You know, we actually own the Cyber Chase on DVD, where they get stuck into a
Come
video
on,
game.
Get your friends. I thought of the show. I'm sorry.
Oh, Cyber Chase.
Welcome to the final level. Your entry ends now.
That's from the movie. But least favorite, probably Be Cool Scooby-Doo, because I just didn't give a fuck about it. And my absolute favorite, besides What's New Scooby-Doo, is the 2002 movie. I'm sorry, that movie will always be timeless.
No, I agree with you on that. It's good.
It's stupid as fuck, but it's so good. I'm as cute as a Powerpuff Girl.
Oh.
I'll get my own show. Scrappy-Doo.
I have both of them.
Scrappy's the villain. Just
Yeah.
Oh, the second one.
no, that was the first one. The second one.
Oh.
The second one.
The second one was okay.
The second
one
one.
had a cross-dresser.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that, like there's this like for 5 minutes the film turned into like it turned into Saturday Night
No,
Scoob.
the second one's my favorite one because of the like, but we cuddled.
Oh yeah, that one. But and there's also like fans of Velma at the beginning who's like, "We love you, Velma. I love her so much."
And like the
Nerd.
whole like romance between Velma
he's
and like
just
that
a nerd.
red-haired guy. Oh my god, mwah.
Okay, that right there proves that you did not watch the cartoon because we know Velma has the hots for Daphne. It's obvious. Come on. Come on. Not
I
the
think you just watched too much porn, dude.
I haven't watched any porn. Well, what are you talking about? But I think we can actually agree. Like, one thing in the sequel, the effects did improve slightly. Because, like, the effects of, like, the monsters are actually really cool. Especially, like, those weird one-eye skeletons. And the tar monster. And that pterodactyl, who was creepy as all fuck.
Yeah.
At night.
Anyway, bottom line, be cool, Scooby-Doo. I don't give a fuck. The second to last one we're going to mention is Sesame Street. Sunny day, drifting up. You guys suck. Oh my god. I'm going to cry.
As much as it's part of my childhood, no.
It's so cute. I still watch it to this day, well, on occasion, and there's still so much charm. They recently like added in a character with autism, and they treated
I
it
know about
so
that.
professionally.
No, that's good.
That's
I like
amazing.
I like that. I like that.
So much respect, so much integrity. And that's the thing about Sesame Street. It tackled a lot of subjects over the years, from like not just the typical kid stuff like sharing and being kind to people, but also 9/11 attacks, death, divorce. There was a band episode where they talked about divorce. It's unbelievable. And they always teach it with so much respect and integrity. Jim Henson's Muppet creations have appealed to adults and children all alike, and that's why I love it so much. The only issue, though, I can understand why the puppets would scare some people, like Belle.
Snuffy like was my childhood nightmare.
I fucking love Snuffleupagus. But my favorite Muppet of all has to be Elmo. Anytime we were watching Sesame Street, I would always wait for Elmo's World. And his little goldfish Dorothy, and all the weird little characters he made.
I've heard things about the guy who used to play Emma, but I won't say anything.
Yeah, that's a story for another day. But I think what we can take away from Sesame Street is that it taught us lessons that we still stick by, and we can still teach them to our kids to this day. It's older than The Simpsons, and it's still going to this day. If it ended years ago, I don't think we would be who we are today. I mean, obviously, this stuff can survive on reruns.
I never watched it because I was too scared of the puppets, so I'm fine.
Oh well. The Muppet characters have been alive for many generations, and they'll still continue to inspire many. But we have one more to talk about, and this one is admittedly iconic, but also very obscure. In fact, I'm probably the only one who actually knows about Felix the Cat. Felix the Cat just turned 100 years old, folks. The classic cartoon character that's older than Mickey Mouse.
I've heard about him because like there's like a YouTuber called Dad who like made a video hitting him with a mallet.
The fuck?
You know, he was doing like a message to like PewDiePie. His name's Felix. He was saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna destroy you and become like the biggest YouTuber."
Jesus Christ. Well, that doesn't have to do with like Felix the Cat himself. But basically, what's iconic about Felix the Cat is that he was the first cartoon character with a legitimate personality. Kinda. I don't know. His cartoons were just kind of like dumb fodder, but they were imaginative for their time. Like he would use his tail as like a cane or a weapon to attack his enemies. I think what made Felix distinct was that he outsmarted any of his enemies before Bugs Bunny, and he was always able to like think above the scenarios before anyone else could. And I guess that's kind of why he got his own spin-off series in the 50s, which is what people remember most. But that shit is boring as fuck. The only thing worth remembering about Felix the Cat is the Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat, because it's a tribute to the classic 30s cartoons while adding its own funny little modern twist. The movie, on the other hand, don't even bother with that. That thing is a bucket of shit. A bucket of pure cat shit. Do you know Felix the Cat, by the way, Gento?
I've heard of him, but I don't think I've ever seen any cartoons.
The silent movie fan is the only one who knows about Felix the Cat. Figures. And that's basically it, folks. We did it all. So, what do you guys feel like you took away from this?
Not really much. I mean, like, we reviewed movies that were pretty cool and iconic.
I mean, we summarized them. I wouldn't say we reviewed them, but we summarized our thoughts. But I think at the end of the day, if this stuff can inspire many, who knows, whatever movie or TV show that gets released now, it's probably going to go on to inspire many. You never know. Definite classic in the future, without a shadow of a doubt. That got released this year, Wonder Park.
Oh boy.
That movie was a train wreck.
I'm kidding.
Guys.
An actual film that I think is going to inspire many in the future, Captain Marvel. No.
Really?
Not even.
Really?
No.
Not even. But it tackles feminism. Okay, fuck it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
There you go.
Okay, that's better.
Because it's a tribute to like those films that came out in the 60s and 70s while adding its own spin. Okay. So to wrap this all up, to anyone watching this, have you seen any of these products? If not, feel free to do so. And even if you don't like them, introduce them to others. I'm sure they'll be very interested and very captivated by them. But until next time, catch you guys on the flip side.
Bye. Nerd.
Shut up.
Nerds. I recently watched it, and I have to admit, it still holds up because of its simplicity. What the fuck?